Welcome to the debate. Today, we're diving into two real giants in Florida's 55-plus housing scene. The Villages, known everywhere for its sheer scale, and On Top of the World in Ocala, which has this reputation for, build quality and maybe a tighter community feel.
Right. And this isn't just like counting amenities. It's really a core disagreement about what value even means in retirement living. Is it about maximizing the scale, the constant activity, the sort of all-in-one convenience? Because that's definitely the case for the Villages.
Exactly. That's my side of the argument.
And I'm arguing, well, pretty much the opposite. That real long-term value, it comes from focusing on construction quality, financial predictability, and building a genuinely more intimate community atmosphere. I really believe On Top of the World offers frankly, a superior and more sustainable foundation for this stage of life.
So the big question we're tackling is, does that huge, city-like scale of the Villages offer this irreplaceable lifestyle value? Or does that very scale just inevitably bring chaos, maybe unnecessary financial risks, when you compare it to a more, let's say, deliberately managed, high-quality community like OTOW? I'm definitely planting my flag on the side of scale providing unique value.
Okay.
I mean, the Villages it's truly an unmatched lifestyle proposition. People call it a small city, purpose-built for retirement. You hear things like, if Disney and Vegas had a baby. And the numbers are just staggering. We're talking over 70,000 homes planned, already serving more than 150,000 residents. And that size, it supports, over 3,000 clubs, 60-plus golf courses, 4 town squares with live music every night?
That's an incredible number of options, no doubt. But I'd suggest the price you pay for that scale is pretty steep, in more ways than one.
Perhaps. But the convenience factor alone, I think, makes the cost justifiable for many. The Villages really functions like its own integrated city. Residents, they really need to leave. You've got over 200 retail shops, 120-plus restaurants, and almost all of it is accessible by golf cart. This whole ecosystem, it offers peace of mind, incredible access, especially as residents age. And, there are other benefits to that scale. The Villages is consistently ranked the safest place to live in Florida, according to FBI crime data. So that city within a city model, it seems pretty successful on paper.
I definitely see the appeal. I do. But let me offer a different perspective. One that's maybe more focused on, let's call it prudence. On Top of the World, I believe, delivers better overall value precisely because of its superior build quality and, importantly, its financial clarity. Now, sure, OTW is much smaller, planned for maybe 13,000 homes, but that's intentional. It's designed to be more laid back, prioritizing a real close-knit community feel where, you actually know your neighbors.
Okay, but what about the investment itself, the actual houses?
Ah, yes. The physical structures. That's a key difference. Many, if not most homes in OTOW, feature concrete block construction. And look, this is critical in Florida, right? Hurricane Alley? That block construction just gives you far better resistance to wind, to moisture, compared to the Villages mix. You've got older manufactured homes there, mobile homes, and then your standard wood frame construction. So there's a safety aspect. And beyond that, OTOW's entry price points are often lower, generally speaking. And crucially, they offer specific communities, like Candler Hills, for instance, where you get fee-simple land ownership.
Right, that term fee-simple land ownership. That's important, isn't it? Because it's a direct contrast to how the Villages often works with those leasehold arrangements that, frankly, cause a lot of anxiety for potential buyers and even residents.
Exactly. And that land ownership issue, combined with let's be honest, the overall financial complexity in the Villages, well, that brings us right to the heart of this debate.
Okay, I acknowledge the Village's financial structure isn't simple, but I'd argue it's complex because it needs to be to support the scale. Not that it's designed to deliberately obscure costs.
I'm sorry, but I just don't quite buy that the complexity is entirely benign or worth the hassle for everyone. Look at the fees. While the base TV HOA fee seems low, maybe around $199 a month, the total fixed cost gets split up across all these different assessments. You've got separate amenity fees, these annual maintenance and operations assessments, and then the real financial elephant in the room, the CDD bonds.
Okay, this is probably a good point to pause and clarify because CDD bonds is a term a lot of people moving to Florida retirement communities hear, but they might just think it's a standard tax. For anyone unfamiliar, could you maybe briefly explain what a CDD bond actually is and why some residents see it as, well, you use the phrase outrageous burden or even a clever scam?
Sure, happy to. So CDD stands for Community Development District. It's basically a legal tool developers use to finance the big infrastructure, the roads, the amenity centers, water systems, all that stuff. They do it by issuing long-term tax-exempt bonds. But here's the catch. Instead of the developer paying for all that up front, that debt gets passed on, assessed to the homeowners within that district. So when you buy a home in a CDD area of the villages, you're essentially inheriting a piece of that debt. And this bond assessment, it's not trivial. It can range from, say, $5,000 to upwards of $40,000, sometimes even more. And you pay it off over 20 or 30 years, usually tacked onto your property tax bill.
Right. And that's the core issue for many, isn't it? It's not just a simple fee, it's a significant debt tied directly to the property. And it can be a huge shock if you're not, let's say, diligent enough to research the specific bond amount for the particular home you're interested in. That lack of upfront clarity, sometimes combined with that leasehold situation we mentioned where you own the structure but technically lease the land under it, it just creates this long-term financial uncertainty that you argue OTOW largely avoids with its clearer fee-simple options.
Precisely.
I appreciate that clarification on the complexity, definitely. But I still think you're perhaps overlooking the fundamental draw, the reason people accept that structure. It's the superior value delivered by the lifestyle. Yes, the investment details are complex, but the sheer desirability of the villages often means homes there appreciate significantly more than, say, comparable homes in OTOW. For many residents, the total monthly outlay, even when you factor in the bond payments and all the various fees, it's still a huge favorable trade-off compared to the high property taxes and living expenses they left behind up north. The overall value proposition for them justifies that initial learning curve on the finances.
Okay, but let's be really precise about that monthly cash flow for a second. The village's $199 starting amenity fee, yes, it sounds competitive for accessing world-class stuff, but it's unbundled, right? OTOW fees, which might range from, say, $200 up to $400 a month, often include necessary services, things like lawn care, exterior maintenance, maybe even water, sewer, trash disposal. So when you actually factor in paying for all those items separately in the villages, which you absolutely have to do, the monthly cost can become, well, essentially a wash. Plus, OTOW specifically advertises entire maintenance-free neighborhoods. That gives you a true lock-and-leave peace of mind that's actually quite hard to find consistently across all of the villages.
And that's a fair, pragmatic point about the monthly accounting. But I'd argue that the convenience and the sheer enjoyment factor often outweigh trying to save a few dollars here and there on trash pickup. The massive scale of the villages, it just ensures this endless stream of opportunities. The nightly live music we talked about, the 3,000-plus clubs, things like the Enrichment Academy for lifelong learning. It's a whole ecosystem specifically designed to combat the potential boredom or isolation of retirement.
But that high energy, that constant motion you describe, as I mentioned, it often comes at a real cost to the actual quality of life. The scale of testafio has created genuine, frustrating day-to-day problems. You hear residents talk about, 60-minute waits just to get a restaurant table during the busy season, really bad traffic congestion, and oh God, those roundabouts, which can be insane and frankly dangerous, especially if you're navigating them daily in a golf cart. You mentioned the 750 holes of golf. Sounds amazing, right? But talk to residents, and many will complain about how genuinely difficult it is to get tee times on the regulation courses because the demand is just so high.
Well, the breadth of options, even with high demand, is still, I maintain, unparalleled anywhere else.
The breadth is huge, yes, I grant you that, but OTOW provides similar key amenities, just on a much more manageable scale. They've got, over 175 resident clubs, plenty of pickleball, 29 courts, but they also focus on quality niche amenities that the Villages actually lacks. Things like a dedicated RC flying field, an indoor swimming pool, which, TV residents have been asking for ages, and their Candler Hills golf course is consistently ranked as one of the top courses in Florida. So quantity isn't always the same as quality.
Let's circle back to security for a moment, because you brought up the structural quality earlier. The concrete block in OTOW, yes, that's definitely better for storm protection, which is a valid point in Florida. But the overall safety ranking is still on my side. The Villages consistently ranks as the safest city in Florida based on FBI crime statistics, even though it relies mostly on those, push button to open access gates.
I see it a bit differently. While FBI data gives you a good statistical snapshot, I think many residents at OTOW prioritize a felt sense of security day to day. OTOW employs 24-hour guards and uses genuine security gates, where visitors actually have to be checked, sometimes even escorted in. That functional reality of a smaller, more controlled footprint, it gives residents a kind of peace of mind that huge, sprawling, even statistically safe cities often struggle to provide. In the Villages, your neighbor could theoretically be anyone passing through. In OTOW, you feel like you're living within a truly managed, secure perimeter.
Well, ultimately, I believe that high-energy city feel isn't a drawback. It's the whole point. That constant motion, the accessibility. It's indispensable for the kind of active retirees the Villages attract.
I just have to disagree there. That city feel, for many, comes at the direct expense of intimacy. You talk to visitors or even former residents of TV, and they often describe the high energy and the constant crowds as, frankly, overwhelming. Some moved out specifically because they wanted their retirement years to be calmer, not perpetually chaotic. On the flip side, visitors to OTW consistently remark on the atmosphere being calmer, friendlier, more genuinely close-knit.
That's a compelling point about the overall vibe. I'll give you that. Though I'd frame the issue slightly differently. The functional convenience of the Villages is such a massive benefit, it often outweighs the desire for a calmer atmosphere, especially as people age. Think about it. Being able to drive your golf cart practically everywhere, to the doctor's office, the grocery store, church, all those shops and restaurants. That is a unique, functional advantage that OTOW simply cannot match. OTOW residents, from most necessary off-site trips, they have to get in their car. That golf cart mobility advantage is a quality of life benefit that, I argue, is absolutely superior for many retirees.
That mobility is powerful, I absolutely grant you that. But stability is also a really essential component of long-term comfort in a community, wouldn't you agree? The Villages is kind of notorious for its relatively lax rental restrictions. Now, that offers homeowners flexibility, sure, but it also contributes to this constant churn, a steady stream of short-term renters, strangers moving in and out, which can dilute that community feel over time. OTOW, with its stricter 6-month minimum rental rule, actively works to maintain a more stable, committed resident population. And that reinforces that intimate, close-knit vibe we keep talking about.
Okay, so to summarize my position then, I believe the ultimate value in a 55-plus community really lies in maximizing convenience and opportunity. The Villages delivers this by creating this highly organized, essentially all-inclusive lifestyle city for retirees who are actively seeking constant activity, unparalleled variety, and that functional autonomy you get with golf cart access to almost all of life's necessities. Well, I think the Villages represents the superior investment and lifestyle choice.
And to summarize my perspective, On Top of the World provides what I see as a far superior foundation. It's generally more financially accessible up front, it's structurally more sound thanks to that common concrete block construction, and it's secured by clearer, fee-simple land ownership options in many areas, which helps mitigate those long-term debt and control issues we discuss with the CDD structure in the Villages. So for retirees who are looking for a calmer, more genuine community feel, with really high-quality amenities, but without the intense traffic, the chaos, and the sheer crowding of a megacity, I think OTOW offers the more prudent, stable, and reliable long-term choice.
So it really boils down to a fundamental difference in philosophy, doesn't it?
Whether a retiree prioritizes that city feel, the sheer scale, and the functional convenience that comes with it.
Or whether they prioritize that true community feel coupled with, structural integrity and financial prudence.
Absolutely. I mean, both communities clearly serve the 55-plus market exceptionally well, but they are catering to two very different sets of desires and priorities.
Yeah. The listener really has to weigh their personal desire for, say, high energy, almost vacation-like activity against maybe seeking a more manageable, secure, and financially predictable foundation for their retirement. The strengths and weaknesses we've hopefully illuminated today really only make the decision clear when you measure them against your own individual priorities.